webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. And you will see a very high smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood.
And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim via the magic of Bill Gates. And we are coming to you, I'm coming to you from Carter County. It is August the 3rd, 2022. Tim's coming from you somewhere in an undisclosed location on the east coast of an undisclosed continent. But we're glad to have him joining us via Bill Gates' magic stuff. How's it going, Tim?
Oh, geez. I'm doing fine. I'm trying to navigate some traffic at the moment. And then I'm going to go inside this fine Walmart, and I'm going to pee inside their New England toilet.
Sometimes you got to do that.
I've heard New England toilets flush the opposite direction, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. We're about to find out.
Yeah, that's what they say about Australia. I didn't know they said it about New England. I would tend to think it would come maybe backwards in New England and come from the bottom up from some of the stories.
That's exactly how it
Yeah,
works.
that's what I figured.
I know this is off topic, but while it's on my mind, you know how we didn't do this on the actual show, but remember how we were looking at that bridge that said 11'8" in North Carolina?
Yeah, the
and
can
how
opener
car
bridge.
after car just plowed into it. They've got probably, I don't know, 50 of those bridges
Oh yeah.
throughout New England.
Well,
And like every time you go under them, because it's the archways that they're trying to warn you about. And every time you go under it, the archways just have like chunks missing out of them where people just apparently whack them all the time. So I thought that was an isolated bridge, but apparently New England's got the monopoly on bridges that destroy trucks.
well, I saw a video after we watched that they actually raised the can opener bridge, but people are still hitting it.
Yeah, they didn't raise it.
Yeah, and that video that you showed me of the intersection there in, I think it was in Seattle, the I-5 exit where.
No, I just drove that. It's in New York.
Is it? Okay, where everybody's crashing.
I think God was trying to show me like some karma or punishment or something like that, because the GPS just sent us straight through downtown New York City for some reason, and we got to experience the I-95 exit. It's not as bad as people think it is. You just can't
That's
drive.
what I was going to say. I watched a video coming from the inside. It's no problem. These people are just idiots. That's the only problem with it. And I run into a lot of those idiots on the road here lately.
All right. See, this is a nice toilet here. Let's see if it flushes.
I bet when you back away from it, it'll give us a nice.
What kind of witchcraft is this?
That's some of that Bill Gates
my back
magic.
pocket for a second, so y'all have to see my wiener.
Hey, speaking of which, I was somehow the topic I was thinking about. You remember Anthony Scaramucci, Trump's I forget what he was, one of his press guys or communication directors or something like that, and he got fired after there was a controversy over him saying he didn't want to brag about himself, and the way he said that was he said I don't want to suck my own dick here. And he was shortly thereafter fired. I think he was a White House communications director. But I got to thinking, we were talking about all these stories that are archetypal across all cultures. And we have, for as an example, the Romeo and Juliet story. There's many versions of that. There's the hero's journey. There's the imposter story, the men who would be king. All these stories, we have like a dozen different tales all across the world that we really tell. And we might interchange settings and characters and some maybe throw in a plot twist here or there, but it's still the basic same story. And so I got to wondering, what about urban legends? What about, remember when we were in probably, I guess, middle or high school, there was the rumor going around that everybody heard that Marilyn Manson had a couple of ribs removed so he could suck his own dick. And I later found out that this was worldwide or across the country. Anyway, they all had this urban legend. Now, where did this come from? Is it because back then we didn't have the internet for these things to spread around? And then there was another thing that I was thinking about is there's anywhere you go, any town, there is the legend of the local weatherman, celebrity, whatever it may be, who had to go to the ER because he had a gerbil up his butt. Richard Gere also had that story about him. How did these weird stories like this get across the nation when we didn't have the internet? You got any ideas on that?
No, that's a good question too, because I remember it was Mark Reynolds in our
Yeah,
area.
that's what they
Poor
always
guy,
said.
He got he got accused of being the gerbil.
Yeah, and no matter where you go, that whole story is there, right down to somebody saying, "I swear my aunt worked at the ER the night he come in," and all across the country you see that story. So I just wonder where that kind of comes from, and
Is it possible? I want to, I guess, posit this as a possibility. Is it possible that there's just a large percentage of weathermen shoving hamsters up their
hey,
butts?
what if it's an initiation to the secret society of weathermen?
It's like, to be a meteorologist, you have to blow a fur ball out your hind end.
But I don't think it's just meteorologists, though. I think it's just like different local celebrities. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe to be a local celebrity, that's something you have to go into. Maybe it's part of that whole mind control agenda, and it goes down and filters its own way on down into local media and things like that. Certainly.
Didn't it start out with the dude from the Weather Channel though? Isn't that who it started out with?
I'm not sure. Richard Gere's the one that I remember that was like a famous one that was okay. That's the only way I could like. I don't know how that story got across the nation either with Richard Gere, because I mean that's back before the internet. That's not the sort of thing that you would hear on television. Was it in a movie? And if it was in a movie, why does nobody say, "Oh yeah, I saw that. It was in a movie"? That's curious. Does it come from another dimension? Are we remembering? Is it a reverse Mandela effect? We're having a memory from worlds past. Is that where all these stories come from? I don't know, but I am curious about it. How these things get spread across the way they do.
You think it's kind of like related to comedians when they start talking about parallel thinking? Like, I could totally see how two songwriters could come up with something real similar, and then there's there's the big thing in the comedy world where joke thief.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of comedian people who have tried to say, look, I really didn't steal this, and this is just parallel thinking. So I do think
that exists.
Maybe parallel thinking happens sometimes.
Yeah, but we're talking widespread parallel thinking here.
Yeah. Maybe every 14-year-old boy's mind works exactly the same and says, hey, let's spread a rumor that the weather guy has a hamster up his ass. You know?
You're talking about songs. I heard a Red Hot Chili Peppers. I guess it was Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's who it sounded like. It was called. It was. I'm imagining it was called Black Summer. It said Black Summer many times in the song, but the song had it. I was like, is this the same lyrics? It's very similar cadence to Aqualung by Jethro Tull. And have you heard that song, the Black Summer song by Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I don't think I have. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I've not heard it. I usually don't listen to radio, but me and B were driving the car the other day, and neither one of us felt like going through our music on our phones, and we just put through it on the one of the local rock radio stations, and I heard that song, and I was like, this sounds a lot like Aqualung, but it took me a minute to recognize what song it was, because it wasn't exactly the same, but the words were very similar, and the way he sang it, and the key was like, I don't know. It was like it was in a different mode or something, but I don't know exactly, but it definitely reminded me of it.
I find that happens quite a bit. I think one of the more recent examples that I noticed was I think it's who is that band? Weezer.
Yeah.
Weezer has a new song out, and it's almost identical to that Fun song, Some Nights. Or is it? Maybe. It's real similar to a Fun song, is what I noticed though.
I could see that just the two bands sounding similar, but I don't know which one you're talking about exactly. Hey, miss you too. Thank you for joining us. Do what?
I'll find it and pull it for you, and we'll do it off show just so I can show you. It's real similar. It's real similar to that part where he starts going whoa, 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 whoa.
Okay.
And then if you slow that part down and put lyrics to it, that sounds like what Rivers Cuomo did for the new Weezer songs. It's almost the exact same slowed down and everything as that Fun song. But
well, I mean,
not exact enough that they get caught for plagiarism or anything, but it's pretty close.
Well, that's when we hear about these musicians. I can't remember what the song was several years ago, but it was a really basic song, and I think it was a Robin Thicke song. And it's like, oh, it did this very similar thing right here, and so you can be awarded royalties because you stole his song. It's like, we're playing with.
Oh, he took a bass line.
Yeah, it wasn't the exact same bass line either. It was a similar bass line, and we're playing.
Yeah, it was in that case.
We're playing Western music. We're playing in a C scale, a C scale based music system that's 12 tones, I mean, there's only so many ways you can put them together, and the ways that our culture likes them to sound are, your basic 1-4-5, and your kind of same basic bass lines. How many? I mean, think about how many like old rock and country bass lines repeat exactly the same way. Can you go back and sue, or can the estate of I don't know, Hank Williams sue somebody because you play on a boom 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 boom? Because they did it back in the 20s or the 40s. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But we're
There has to be a when they go into law and court and stuff like that. There has to be what's the word? There has to be like proof that it was actually taken from that one. In the case of Robin Thicke, they knew he actually had taken that bass line from a Marvin Gaye song, is what it was, because it's identical. It even has a little ding 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 in the background. It was kind of like when Vanilla Ice took the bass line from the Rolling Stones. Like, you're allowed to sample stuff, you just have to give people credit for it. And in the case of Robin Thicke, Blurred Lines, they didn't give credit to Marvin Gaye's bass line because it was identical. Even the snare and the kick, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't find it to be identical, but it's been a while since I've listened to it, so I can't say for sure. But yeah, either way, I mean, if you're playing the exact same thing note for note, a melody, with similar, effects and things like that, I guess I can see that. But I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of.
Well, you remember what's his face? The guy that sung that, "Oh, won't you stay with me?" Sam Smith. That song "Stay With Me." He got sued by Tom Petty because it's the same melody as what is it? "Won't Back Down." The chorus, "Oh, won't you stay with me? Oh, won't you stay?"
Yeah.
Well, I won't
you're
back down.
Well,
back down. So,
that's crazy though. That's like such a simple melody. I mean, that really is like playing the G C bass line, and suing somebody for playing the G C bass line.
Well, Christian bands can get away with that because they're too afraid to sue each other. I guess they've been ripping off Amazing Grace for like 100 years.
And well, how long have we been ripping off God Save the Queen? We wrote "My Country 'Tis of Thee" back, a couple hundred years ago. But I don't.
Well, see, the Sex Pistols don't care if you plagiarize them, though.
Right.
It's a Sex Pistols joke. Sorry.
That's all right.
God Save the Queen and all that noise.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, listen, if you're there in the chat, jump in and tell us hello. Say what you're thinking about some of these videos or some of these news stories we're going to be looking at. Give us a like on the video. Comment if you're watching it after the fact. Share it around to somebody that you think might enjoy it. And try to get some of your friends to subscribe and join us on the Sundays and Wednesday night shows. We're here every Sunday and Wednesday, almost, at 10 p.m. We've only missed one Sunday. And it's almost our year anniversary of starting the show. So we've done pretty good. And hey there, Spill the Tea. We are here most Wednesdays, and we're here tonight. And even Tim, from on his $1.50 vacation to New England, has made time to be able to join us while he drives back.
It's going to cost more than $1.50 this time. I'm stopping at White Castle, so it's going to cost.
Well, that inflation, son, it's going to get you.
I've got the hookup at White Castle. They hooked me up for about nothing.
Perks of being a musician.
And perks of being I guess I'll stop right there. Yeah.
Well, hey, I've got a bunch of news stories to get into, so let's go ahead and get started on them. I've got some. I got one that you sent me, Tim. I'm going to get into. We'll get to that here in just a minute. This was a pretty good one. But first, before we do that, I want to go to this document that Project Veritas got from. It was a leaked document, unclassified, law enforcement sensitive, FBI internal use only, Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Castle, what can I get you? Yeah, like a number one combo with Coke to drink.
Let's listen to Tim's order and make fun of it.
1921 combo with no condiments. No combo. Just one slider. Oh, okay. Let me change that last combo to just one slider. Sorry.
Oh. And a cheese slider.
You want cheese on number one?
Yes.
Yes, please. And
that was yours. Did you want cheese?
Yes. Let me also add a cheese slider to the end of that.
Cheese on White Castle. I like just the mustard and onions and the pickles.
And no condiments on the burgers that aren't in the combo. Yeah, the burgers come with pickles, onions, and ketchup. No ketchup.
See, I like the crystal with mustard better. See, down here in Carter County, we have a Salmon's and a Barker's local establishments that make their sliders with onions and mustard.
Cheese slider.
Hey, Maria, glad to see you. She's
Cheddar,
never been to Spill the Tea. Says she's never been to White Castle. We have In-N-Out here. I've never been to In-N-Out. That's you got to go
What cheese
about to
slider?
Texas to
Okay,
get that,
check
don't
it.
you? And then Texas and to the West Coast from there. I think you can get it.
Thank you.
If you just joined us, Tim's on the road somewhere in the hellscape of New England. I think he's in one of the nicer places. No, actually, not right now. He's not. He's in the hellscape.
No one combo. Just a burger.
You're going to confuse him, Tim. So,
Huh?
I say you're going to confuse him.
You might just have to mute me from time to time.
I'm going to mute you for just a minute because I'm going to get into this story from the Project Veritas. So I'll mute you for just a minute and then I'll check back in on you. And
Just unmute me. I'll be listening. Just unmute me whenever you want input.
well, I'll unmute you here in a minute. I'll give you time to get your food and then I'll unmute you. All right. So I'll still be able to hear you, even though our viewers won't be able to. So I want to show you this story right now. This is Project Veritas got this, and this has been leaked from the FBI. This is a description of violent or militia violent extremism. They call it MVA. The following are symbols used by anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, specifically militia violent extremists, and they're often found on propaganda, online platforms, memes, merchandise group logos, flags, tattoos, uniforms, etc. Widespread use of symbols and quotes from American history, especially the Revolutionary War. Oh my God! We've got people in the United States who are flying symbols of the founding of the United States? We got to do something about this. Especially the Revolutionary War exists within MVE networks. Historic and contemporary military themes are common for MVE symbols. The use or sharing of these symbols alone should not independently be considered evidence of MVE presence or affiliation, or serve as an indicator of illegal activity, as many individuals use these symbols for their original historic meaning other than nonviolent purposes. And then they go on to show you the ANCAP flag, the red and the yellow and black flag, the Boogaloo Flag, and they're talking Boogaloo. They give a kind of a description of it. They say alludes to the film Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, used by some MVEs to refer to violent uprising or impending second civil war. Common imagery incorporates igloo and or Hawaiian shirts or flowers. Now, a lot of these Boogaloo guys, I think, from what I've seen of them, now I'm not seeing a big, wide swath of them, but they seem like they are not trying to be violent, but they are letting everyone know that they think violence is coming and that they are ready. I think that's what the vibe I get from them. Millicent Spill the Tea says she loves Whataburger and Sonic, and she tries not to eat out a lot. I try not to too. I've had my kids have been staying with grandparents and stuff like that over the summer a lot, and we've not had them at home, so we have not eaten healthy at all. I'll go ahead and bring Tim back in here. He's staring at me like a madman. So
I don't think so.
no, they can still see you.
Okay.
Now Maria's getting
So
hungry.
They can see me screaming butt sex at the camera. That's good. I hope they can read lips.
Yeah, I don't know if they could or not. But we see this militia violent extremists poster that has gone out to the FBI, and it shows things like the Gadsden flag, Virginia and the state of Tennessee have this on license plates that you can get from the state, and they're actually here in Tennessee. When you get a Gadsden flag license plate, I didn't get one when they first came out. I think they came out in 2014. And I was like, what, I'm going to give money to the government to put a tag on my car that shows that I am supportive of the original intent of the country, which was to overthrow a tyrannical government. But then I found out later that the local Fort Watauga is actually where the money from those tags goes. So when you pay for that tag, you're supporting Fort Watauga doing their historical reenactments of the Revolutionary War here in Carter County. So I was like, oh, I'm glad to contribute to that. Let's pay a little extra. I've already got to register my car. I'm not going to be one of these guys who's like, as much as I feel what they're saying, oh, I don't have to register my car with the government. I'll do what I want, man. And then you get pulled over and get the shit beat out of you by the police. I ain't trying to do all that. But I will go ahead and give you a little extra money if it's going to a cause that I like in order to get that tag. And that's the way most of those work, actually. So you're not actually giving extra money to the state like I thought it was. And then you've got some of the replies right here on Twitter. Every American should be on this list. And then he's got the snick with a grenade here.
Oh, no, just one of those. That's what number one
And the
combo.
don't tread on
one
me
of those.
porcupine. That's the anarcho-capitalist porcupine. And basically that anarcho-capitalism is kind of the thing that I'm into. I mean, basically, as Michael Malice puts it, any system that gives you a say over how I live my life is absurd. So I kind of agree with that on a lot of levels. So let's look at a couple more here. We've got the Betsy Ross flag, Revolutionary War imagery harkening back to the 13 colonies and calls for revolution. The Liberty Tree is a famous elm tree near Boston in the Boston Commons in 1765. And the first act of defiance against the British government was at the tree, but it's also the Tree of Liberty. The quote is, I think it was from Thomas Jefferson, but it was from time to time, the Tree of Liberty must be quenched with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what it was. But then you've got the Molon Labe, the Come and Take It Greek phase, the Spartan helmets. You've got 2A signs, and they're saying any of these are not enough on their own to be a militia violent extremist, but these are the symbols that they're using. But guess what? These are the symbols that millions of regular Americans are using, and they're not trying to do a violent uprising. They just want to let anybody who wants to mess with them and try to bring harm to them and their families know that they are ready to deal with that. That's what those stickers mean. And there's a growing number of people who are putting stuff like that on their vehicles and identifying with those ideas. Here we got, when tyranny becomes law, this is common phrases, rebellion becomes duty and variations. And here's it is, the Tree of Liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And I became unreasonable. His name was Duck and Lip, referring to Duck and Lip, who was a guy who, I think this was the guy who was crawling on the floor with no weapon, and the cops shot him while he was crawling and killed him. Maria says, well, that's a plus. I bet the reenactment is cool. And or Spill the Tea said that, and Maria said she'd like to go to a reenactment sometime. Spill the Tea would too. Yeah, they're pretty cool. We have one every July up here called Liberty, and it is a dramatic retelling of the events of the Overmountain victory, where we've talked about many times on this show, where the patriots from Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia got together to overthrow or defeat Major Patrick Ferguson at Kings Mountain. And it was a big tide turner in the Revolutionary War. If it wasn't for that, like a couple of things that happened in our area, there would be no United States of America. So that was a pretty cool cause to support, I think. And they also use the term here, well-regulated American militia, terms 3%ers, U.S. ideology based on the myth that only 3% of Americans fought back during the Revolutionary War, often represented by the numeral 3, surrounded by 13 stars to represent the 13th state. How is that a myth? I think it was like 10% of the public was actually on board. It was a very small amount. It was basically the people who were. Buddy says he can see Kings Mountain out his window. That's cool. It was basically the people who were in a position of being able to do so, wealthy landowners, and the people who had done well for themselves in the New World and were losing things to the crown. So that's there were only about 3% of the people who were actually taking up arms against the British. So that's not a myth. Now they also reference Ruby Ridge or Waco. Well, why must be some sort of violent extremists to reference. Now this is the absurdity of this whole thing. The FBI is saying that you may be violent if you reference when they killed a bunch of innocent people, burned down a compound with a bunch of children and women inside, and shot a woman in the back holding a baby, over a short-barreled shotgun. Somebody had a sawed-off shotgun, and they're going to tell you that you're violent because you are calling them out for that? That's some next-level shit, man. She says from Spill the Tea says she's from Waco, but that enraged me. Oh, I didn't know that. Spill the Tea. I'd say it did. We've talked about it a couple times on here. They had the opportunity to arrest David Koresh many times while he ran through town. They had all kinds of chances to get what they wanted out of him without actually going in there and surrounding the place, setting siege to it, shooting at people inside and burning them on fire. Ruby Ridge did too. What a disgrace! Yeah, and then you've got the whole thing with the Ammon Bundy thing up there in Wyoming. I think it was where they got into the standoff with the Bureau of Land Management, and the Bureau of Land Management just randomly pulls out their guns and starts shooting at this guy, and he pulls his, and they kill him, and then they're like, oh, well, he was shooting at us. It's like, yeah, you just started to open fire on him. The Waco thing was so awful, says Maria D. Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't care what your excuse is. He was allegedly hurting the people in there and hurting the children. They said, but a lot of people that were there said that he didn't. And so you're going to go murder the children and women? So I mean, my God. That was a flex to show not to stand up to big government, Maria says. Yeah, you're right. And that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. They're letting you know this is the New World Order. The New World Order started, it was official in 1991 anyway. That's when George H.W. Bush announced it, annuit coeptus. That's what's on the dollar bill. You know what that means? It means announcing conception. And then the bottom, Novus Ordo Seclorum, means a new order of the ages. It could also translate to a new world order. And that's what's on the dollar bill. And they've been awaiting that. People behind the scenes have been awaiting that for a long time. And they've put it into effect. And a big part of that is a getting back to, let's get rid of this idea of that we're all free here. We're going to remind you who's in charge. And so that's that story. I got this tweet here from Jeremy Kaufman, who says, odd to see the organization responsible for the most destructive riots in American history not included. Yeah, so there's no BLM on that. So, yeah, even though none of these groups that they've got here have actually done any significant violent actions. But you've got plenty of groups that have done significant violent actions, and they're not on this. You don't see Antifa on there. Where are they? I mean, they say they don't track groups. They don't say that the FBI, when people ask them about Antifa, they say, oh, we don't track the actions of groups. We track the actions of individuals. Well, what the hell are you doing here? You're tracking the actions of groups. It's obvious.
Well, Antifa doesn't exist. Remember?
Yeah, I know. It's an idea, not an organization. Even though they all organize and go out to the same locations and communicate across the country, it's an idea, not an organization.
Isn't that funny? That insane clown posse fits the criteria for the FBI to consider them a hate group and a crime, but not Antifa.
Well, they did call the Juggalos a hate group. I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but did you? I'm sure you probably heard it, Tim. Did you see the insane clown posse came out 6-7 years ago and said that they were actually Christians all the time and that this was their roundabout way to bring lost souls to Christ?
No, I hope that's true, though. That's funny.
The ultimate troll.
Yeah, they're probably lying, though.
I haven't followed up on it, but that's what they said several years ago. Let's get on to the next story here. Tim sent me this one the other day. Let me make sure the audio's on so you can hear this. You're going to want to hear it. And, yep, it's on. Let me turn it up a little bit. All right, here we go from Fox 11. Who shot my arm off? Just in case you couldn't see it good, look back here where my pointer is on the top of the screen, behind the USA. Guy walks in with a rifle pointed at him. The guy behind the corner had his rifle ready.
You like your 21? Is it better than Crystal?
I don't want to show too much because I'm afraid they'll copyright strike us there. But that guy That was in Los Angeles. Wait a minute. I thought Los Angeles had a magazine ban. I thought you weren't supposed to have 30-round magazines in California. Well, that guy did.
Your car sounds like shit.
It's almost like that criminals are going to do what they're going to do.
Why would you want it to sound like that?
Is your car sounding bad?
Listen to it. It sounds like a goddamn coffee grinder from 400 feet away. Why would you want your car to sound like that?
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that was your car.
It sounds like a piece of construction equipment. It sounds like they're busting up concrete on the street. And that's your muffler?
Your screen shrunk here for me. I got to stretch you back out there. I don't know why that happened.
All right.
Oh, I hope they've got an echo now. There we go. Got that muted. But yeah, that old man there, he actually had a heart attack. He was 80 years old. And let's see if I can get his name here. He was protecting his business and he was protecting his life. And I've got a little interview from him here. Let's see if I can find it. You know, it's the craziest thing. Sometimes I send myself everything I do that I'm planning to do for the show. I send myself in an email, and then sometimes some of the emails just won't come through. Like, it's usually the latest ones that I send, they just don't show up on the list. And then after I do the show, that's when they show up. Even I can refresh it a million times, and for some reason it doesn't show them up. But there was an interview with the old man, and he was basically saying, you know, you don't know how hard it is to run a business in a place like this. And then when somebody comes in and they're going to take what you've worked so hard for, not going to let it happen. So they did a news story that I saw where everybody in the community was like, it was like the Boondock Saints, where you saw these guys, except on the Boondock Saints, you know, there was about half of the people that they interviewed that were saying, you know, while the credits are rolling, they were saying, oh, they shouldn't be doing this vigilante stuff. They should let the law enforcement take it into their hands. But this guy was defending his own business, so he didn't have any of that. He was defending his life. The guy came in pointing an AR at him. And so he shot him with his rifle that he had at the counter. He knew they were coming because he had security cameras, and he saw somebody jump out and pull down a ski mask before they come in. So he had his rifle ready when he walked in the door, and he took care of business. The local community was very supportive of him, and they were saying things like, yeah, we're tired of these people running all over us. In Los Angeles, if you didn't know, they've had a huge crime wave for the last it's been a lot longer than the last few years, but it's really picked up over the last few years. And they got to the point of the sheriff's department in Los Angeles telling people to buy guns because they can't be everywhere. And now they are actually issuing carrying permits after the recent Supreme Court decision that you cannot deny people the right to bear arms. They've been issuing carry permits out there like crazy, and a lot more people are carrying in LA. So there'll be a lot more people protected from this kind of stuff. But that's all they'd say. They were doing this study, like people who got robbed, like almost all the people who got robbed had been robbed before. And what they had was the criminals, and they had them watch these people go by, and they would say, you know, pick which one you feel like that you would rob. And they would pick the same ones that had been robbed before, because these people apparently carry themselves in such a way that it makes themselves easy targets or something. Spill the Tea says, yes, you worked fingers to the bone, and some thug comes along just to take it. Yeah, good for him. Jay Ha says, Cliff, what's up at Specs? I'll watch the pod later. Yeah, I hope you do. Maria D says, I agree. I would have done the same. And here's the thing. You see on the news, you see all these people who have these views that it's wrong to defend yourself against violence. Who are these people? Where are they finding these people? I've never met a single person who says you shouldn't be able to defend yourself, but yet we see people on the news. We see the Prime Minister of Canada saying it's not the right of Canadians to use guns for self-defense. Like, what? So, I mean, where's this idea coming from? Regular people don't think like this. This was apparently this guy in Baltimore. He painted hundreds of no-shoot zones on sidewalks and buildings around the city. Was shot this morning in East Baltimore. Police say he's in serious condition. Apparently, it's almost like no-shoot zones don't work. It's almost like people who are intent on doing harm to other people are going to do so, whether or not you tell them that they can't. I don't think that signs, I don't think that laws are going to stop people who are intent on harming others and who don't care and who have no sympathy or empathy for the people that they're harming. And they had this weekend, they had a gun buyback event in Houston, and there's been this big hubbub about people printing their own guns, what they call ghost guns, unserialized receivers, and they're trying to call them firearms and saying that they should be regulated as firearms. Well, a guy went into the Houston gun buyback, and they were giving $150 a piece for any gun that you brought to him. So he 3D printed 62 of the cheapest guns you can make and went and turned them in for $150 a piece. And I'd say he'll print some good guns or buy some real guns, some nice guns with that kind of money. But then the Houston, they will not accept ghost guns at future buyback events. Well, I thought ghost guns were such a big threat to society that we've got to get them all off the street. When somebody brings you 62 of them, you say we can't take them anymore. Oh, that's right, because anybody can just print as many as they want. You're not going to get rid of them. So only thing you're going to do if you restrict firearms ownership is make the rest of us who actually follow the law. I suspect many people would not follow that law if you said you weren't allowed to do that. Then you're going to make people who do follow that law defenseless against people who don't. All right. So now we're off of the gun stuff for tonight. I want to do this just in case some dumb witch is watching out there, because they chimed in on the last show about soy, or what was it? Was it soy? They said that they were talking about that anyway. We got around to soy shrinks the jewels, makes too much estrogen when you eat that stuff, and so I wanted to show this video for some dumb witch. Oh wait a minute, let me make sure you can hear it.
This red light. You need this one?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Yep, I muted it. Mamma mia.
This is just cheese and a pickle. Straight?
Right.
Or follow this car there. Final fiddle.
Vegetable. In other words, soybean oil. She's trying to shrink your balls, dude. Run! No. But yeah, that's for you, some dumb witch. Hope you're out there with us tonight. B said you can't hear it. I hope you could hear it after I got that done. I think I got it fixed where you could hear it. Yeah, Spill the Tea says that's beta talk about not defending yourself. We need more alphas in the world. Yeah, I mean, I guess, and most betas would even say that. That's like Delta or Gamma or Delta mill or something. I don't know, man. Who would say you don't have the right to defend yourself against somebody? But apparently in places like England, especially, but also cities in the U.S., you defend yourself, you will actually go to jail. The criminal will not go to jail, and you will if you defend yourself. There's places in the States where that happens. Let's
Right.
let's look at we were talking about gender affirming care and pronouns and stuff last week, and how you shouldn't be messing with children on this stuff. Well, look, the children are striking back a little bit on this one. So let's watch this video from Libs of TikTok that they shared on Twitter.
Here?
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
Okay. And then?
Left.
Left.
Oh, somehow the concept of pronouns. I wonder how that came up. I'm sure she didn't have anything to do with that.
Yep.
73 miles and we'll take I-85.
Okay.
Yes, they were trolling you. These kids are not falling for your bullshit. You're an idiot. Rock and Banana know exactly what they're doing. Could y'all hear that? Please tell me you could hear that, and I didn't just make you look at that lady talk without hearing anything she said. Somebody in the chat chime in, let me know.
I didn't hear anything.
Well, I know you didn't, because if I want you to hear it, I'm sorry, I have to to switch my, instead of giving you my camera, I got to give you my screen, and you know what kind of trouble we've had with that. But couldn't hear it. No, dang it. Desktop audio is on, but we can't hear it. Let's try this. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to hear it. Okay, well, at least you could read it. Could you hear the video that I did earlier? With the guy with the olive oil? I mean, everything's set up, but you, like you should be able to hear it. It's showing me everything's coming through fine. I don't know. Oh, dang it. Well, at least you could read both of them. Sorry about that. I won't put you through it again just in case I can't get it to play the audio properly. But Tim, it was backwards for you, so I'm sure you couldn't read it. But this was a teacher who was having a conversation on pronouns with her 5th and 6th graders, and when the conversation came that way, one of the students told her that they identified as his pronouns were rock and banana. But instead of saying he, she should say rock. Rock sat there and ate bananas lunch. Is how she should do that. And I think these kids have realized that's absurd, and they are trolling the shit out of this lady. And she said she thought he was joking, and she said, "Hey, are you joking? You can't do that. That's not funny." And the whole class said, "Oh no, you have to accept his pronouns." And she's like, "Oh," all confused. But yeah, that's just what do we call malicious compliance? You comply in such an absurd way, in such a way as to show the absurdity of the whole idea and the whole situation. So good on those kids, wherever that crazy lady. I don't know. I don't want to talk too hard about it. She's been through a lot with the conditioning that a lot of people have. That's why I try not to be too hard on these individual people who have fallen for this stuff, because we've been hit with an onslaught of propaganda from, especially since COVID, but on a lot of levels. I mean, we really have. Our brains are scrambled. The root of government is mind control. Govern means to control. The root word for that is mind. So that's been a lot of their deal here. Now we got Nancy Pelosi right now is going to Thailand. We're just going to show you a quick video from that. There's been much fuss about that because she's China's like, oh, if you come into Thailand, we're gonna fire at you or surround you or do something like that. Well, Nancy Pelosi comes flying in with an escort of with a full Air Force squadron here, and
she's going to Taiwan.
Yeah,
though, right?
did I say Thailand? Taiwan, yeah. She's going to Taiwan, which is an island, a archipelago of islands that China has claimed dominion over. Taiwan, they say they're separate. The U.S. allegedly follows the One China policy, which recognizes China as recognizes Taiwan as part of the Republic of China. But there's Nancy flying overboard with her escort, and China went on to do. They did some military drills and stuff while she was over there. Who knows why she's over there? They say it's about, a lot of people are speculating it may be about the computer chip. They just passed a law apparently, or passed something. I'm not real familiar with it in Congress where, or maybe they're about to. Maybe it's about to pass where they're going to get some computer chips made in California, which admittedly we do need to do. But Nancy's missed climate change. Everyone should drive electric vehicles to save the planet. While she's got that kind of escort going over to Taiwan, when she could have had a Skype meeting like me and Tim are doing. I mean,
the theory on Nancy is that she's going to Taiwan to kick off tensions between China and the United States, because if you take China, the Silicon Valley aspect of it, if China stops shipping microchips to the United States, that means it's completely left up to Silicon Valley, and they're saying petitions on massive stock in Silicon Valley. That's what she's trying to do. But She's an alcoholic. I'm pretty sure she's got Swiss cheese for a brain. I don't think anything she's doing on purpose. These are a bunch of puppets. If anybody's doing something on purpose, it's not these idiots. It's not
Well,
Biden or
I
Pelosi.
guarantee she's getting rich on purpose. But yeah, you're right. She's a puppet. She's working for other interests other than her own, as far as what she's doing in probably most foreign policy. But I mean, if you've seen the things where her stock portfolio outperforms the market by like a crazy amount, and she sells all this stock right before she votes on bills related to it, or buys stock right before she votes on bills related to it. So, yeah. Spill the Tea says, well, they started that silliness too, so let's just get ridiculous. Yeah. The kids coming up, I'm telling you, man, I've got a kid in that age range. A couple of years ago, these kids they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for, because a lot of this propaganda with the BLM and the COVID stuff going around about 2 years ago, they were trying to put that on the kids really hard, and at first the kids were accepting of it, and also the whole all the kids in my kids' class had this whole Donald Trump is mean and everybody doesn't like Donald Trump, and then by the end of it they were like, I like Donald Trump, he's funny, and like it was popular, and he was popular in her class. They liked him. Because they've been told to hate him by a lot of people, and then the same with this BLM stuff, and the same with the COVID stuff. You give them a little while, and they're like, this is stupid. We're not doing it anymore. Spill the Tea says a lot smarter. Maria says I'd feel they'd send us a body double or a clone. I don't know. It'd be easy to clone Nancy. I mean, you could make a wax copy of her, take a wax figure from the museum and send it over there, and they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Did you see Nancy's jugs? She was walking on the beach with a low cut top. That was scary, man. Let's get on to this. Is a video my buddy at the Armageddon Hour made. This is Nancy going to Taiwan. Oh, you can't hear it. Damn. Oh, it's got the words too. Oh, you can't hear it. Anyway, damn it, that sucks, man. I hate you guys couldn't hear that, because that shit was funny. Armageddon Hour. Go to I'll throw his video in the description. Go check him out. Follow his podcast. He's got a channel on YouTube, Armageddon Hour, and you can check it out there. Sorry you couldn't hear it. Sorry about that, Armageddon Hour. I really wanted to show that on there. Audio screw ups though. All right. Now, before we get on into the meat and potatoes of the episode, I do want to get a couple of local things here. We've talked about this one. I think it's be interesting to y'all too, because we had a Bitcoin mine here in Jonesboro, or Washington County, and the local residents are suing the Bitcoin mine, Red Dog Technologies, and the local electricity and internet provider, Bright Ridge, which was formerly the Johnson City Power Authority. It's basically a fascist electric company, and I mean that in the literal sense, as Mussolini said, that fascism should be more properly defined as corporatism, when you have the merger of the state and a corporation. And that's what something like the TVA, that's what something like most of your local power authorities are. And in this case, they're suing the local power authority, Bright Ridge, because Red Dog Technologies put a Bitcoin mining farm with lots of large, powerful fans that made all kinds of racket, and people are complaining. They sued. I think it had 51 families that lived within a half-mile radius that could really hear that, and they sued the Bitcoin mining company and the local power authority. And I think this is funny too. You see here, the Washington County Commission's Commerce, Industry, and Agriculture, or CIA committee, would have needed to review a final settlement proposed at its monthly meeting that includes the relocation of the Washington County Industrial Park in Telford. So, it's looking like, I mean, we're gonna wait to see, but it's looking like they're going to be agreeing to move by 2024, December 20th or 31st, 2024, and most likely much earlier. And Bright Ridge is going to have to give free internet for a year, to fiber internet for a year, for 51 homes within a half-mile radius. So, I don't know, maybe that'll make them feel better. Because they had to listen to loud-ass fans for a couple of years. I don't know, man. we got a couple other legal things in the lawsuit. I did have this one. I meant to do this one first. But if you're in our local area, we're going back to school, so be looking out the school zones. Watch out for those kiddos. Be careful out there. And also tomorrow, Thursday, August the 4th, is primary election day in Tennessee. So go out there and pick somebody in whichever primary lines up with more of your values. I would, at least if you agree with me that a lot of the stuff happened is insane, and find somebody that is not so insane and vote for them in your primary election. That way you'll have maybe a chance of having somebody decent in the general. Who knows? But I don't have too much faith in these things. But at the same time, if you don't do it at all, I mean, you're not going to have any faith in it, and you're not going to have any assistance from it. You got to take advantage of the power that you actually do have. You get a large enough group of people together and organize, you can do things. So be sure and go out and do that tomorrow if that's what you're into. I've got a couple more court cases that we're talking about. So Alex Jones from InfoWars has been in court this week last week and this week, because the families from the Sandy Hook shooting, or a couple of the families, have sued him, saying that they've been harassed and had threats coming to them because people say that they aren't real, that they were actors, that nobody really died at Sandy Hook, and that it was all a big hoax. And they're suing Alex Jones because of this. Now, Alex Jones, by this judge here, Maya Guerrero Gamble, she's already she defaulted him. And I mean, you don't really know what to believe, I guess, exactly, but I tend to believe Alex Jones is telling the truth on this. He says that what they did was they asked him to have provide his marketing material for the Sandy Hook episodes, and he's like, we didn't market that we were doing these stories. We weren't promoting these stories. We were doing our show every day like we normally did. We didn't get rich off of this. And she because he did not provide the marketing material that he claims does not exist, and really doesn't make sense. If you've watched InfoWars, they don't do that. They don't put out marketing for each daily episode. They put out a show every day based on what the news is. And so the marketing for that wouldn't have been different from his marketing any other day. But anyway, they defaulted him, found him guilty without a jury trial. The judge found him guilty, and now he is having a jury trial to decide how much money he's going to have to pay these families, and how much money InfoWars is going to have to pay these families. But listen, regardless of how you feel about Alex Jones, a lot of people, I mean, he's a hot button issue. I guess he's pretty divisive for some people. But regardless of how you feel about him, when he got banned from a lot of the major platforms like YouTube and Twitter, everybody started telling you back then, well, not everybody, but a lot of people, you look out, Alex Jones is the canary in the coal mine, because when they start with him, they're going to come after you next. They're going for the easiest target right now. They're going to make him look as terrible as they can, kind of like they did with Trump a lot of times. They take everything he said out of context, make it look as bad as possible, and then give you false information even onto what they actually mean when they're talking. And they did that with Alex Jones too. Now, Alex Jones really did not even cover. He questioned the Sandy Hook shooting, which it had some suspicious stuff in the media reporting. But it wasn't a big, long thing on his show. Usually when events happens, he'll track them for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he did some on that. But then eventually he said, no, I don't know, guys, this looks like this might have happened. But there was a lot of people online who said it didn't happen, and I know some people who made some very interesting cases for that. But at any regard, he is in court right now to find out how much he's actually going to have to pay, and. Let's see here.
That's a bad idea.
What's that?
On our part. That is quite possibly the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, what they're claiming is they're getting unwanted attention because of their connection to Alex Jones, and so their response is to sue him.
Because
they're going to be trolled by the internet for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
By doing that. That's what they're insuring themselves, is that trolls are going to come after them nonstop for the rest of their lives. They're going to have to go like witness protection down in like Costa Rica.
Well, I was going to show you a video of it, but Judge Maya Guerrero Gamble, she says in this video, since you can't hear it, I'm just going to tell you. She says, you may not tell this this jury that you are bankrupt. This is not true. You may not tell the jury that you complied with the discovery because this is not true. Just because you may feel, she said something like, "I know you think that this is true, but that does not mean it is true." And to me, that gives him a defense because, I mean, realistically, to prove it was malice, they would have to prove he knew it was not true and that he did it just to make money. But Alex Jones was questioning the thing there. That's what he does. He questions everything. That's his job. We need people like that out there. And I saw a meme the other day that said, "You call me a conspiracy theorist, but maybe you're just really bad at puzzles." Now, and this headline I've got here from CBS News, it says, "Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones testified Wednesday that he now understands it was irresponsible of him to declare the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre a hoax, and he now believes it was 100% real." Well, Alex Jones, and they're making it out like, oh, well, now that he thinks he's in trouble and he's going to have to pay people, he now believes it's 100% real. He's been saying for years that he thinks it really happened, that he did not know at first. He was questioning the thing, and once he found out what really happened, then he said he thought it really happened. But that really doesn't matter to these people. They've got him in their crosshairs, and this is as good a thing as any to go after him for, because once they take out Alex Jones, then they can come down after anybody.
No, they can't take him
Yeah,
down.
they're sure trying. He said, but today in court, Jones said, "Especially since I've met the parents, it's 100% real," and that's all they quote. You know how Alex Jones talks. He probably said 20 sentences right there, and they put that one sentence in there. And I got a gnat flying at my face here. They're seeking $150 million, and yeah, like you said, if they win that thing, which they probably will, they're probably not going to win $150 million. Alex Jones is barely keeping InfoWars on the air. People make fun of him, say he's a vitamin salesman and stuff, but it's like he can't get anybody to advertise with him because nobody wants to. All the big nationwide advertisers are on an opposite philosophy from what Jones is doing. But it says Jones was the only person who testified in his own defense. His attorney asked him if he understands it was actually absolutely irresponsible to push false claims that the massacre didn't happen and no one died. Jones says he does, but added, the media, won't let me take it back. And I'll tell you, as a periodic and not a frequent InfoWars listener, I listen to the podcast, to the radio show sometimes. I've heard him say it multiple times over the years. He's also complained that he's been typecast as someone that runs around talking about Sandy Hook, makes money off Sandy Hook, and is obsessed with Sandy Hook. And you think he was? They want you to think of, when you think of Sandy Hook, hey, wait a minute, what about the guy who killed the kids? Why? I mean, this is the guy that you should be mad at. This is the guy that you should hate. This I'm not even going to say his name, but that. Why is Alex Jones the guy? This is not who did this to you. The school failed you. The psychiatric system up there failed you. Everybody involved in that school, in that shooting, is who failed. It's not Alex Jones. So, I really.
You want to?
What's that?
A funny one that you can use right here is I forget what shooting it was. I want to say it was in Colorado. I forget now. Online they called the school shooter, I think they called him like the supreme gentleman or something like that. Like he was like the kid that got the word incel put on the map. I can't remember exactly where he did his shooting at, but it turned out his dad was a very famous actor, and that somehow that just never really made it too much into the spotlight. His dad was like the director of like fucking
No, his dad was like the director of like the
like look up school shooter.
You're cutting out a little bit. I couldn't hear you, but there's one there that that the guy was like.
His dad is a very, very successful director.
Oh, movie director.
Very famous director.
Okay.
But they never talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, the guy in the Colorado shooting, in the Aurora movie theater shooting, his dad was like a military psychiatrist who was working on mind control programs. And a lot of these guys have had connections to military psychiatrists. The Parkland shooting, I think, no, it was the Texas one. that had the church shooting in Texas that had a Air Force psychiatrist, and he had actually escaped a mental institution before, and then they'd let him out, and also still let him buy a gun after he had escaped a mental institution and attacked an officer. So yeah, it's. Let me read some of these chats real quick before I move on. We got Maria, or Spill the Tea, says, question the narrative always. I'm a conspiracy analyst. I don't accept all the theories out there. No, there's a ton of bullshit out there. They put, well, to quote Alex Jones, the turd in the punch bowl. They put lots of turds in that punch bowl of conspiracies, so that it's kind of like a straw man argument. It's something that's easy to beat down, and that's what we talked about, that we think that flat Earth may be, because it's something that, even if it is true, it sounds so absurd to anyone who you might be telling about it, that they're automatically going to disregard any other thing that you say to them. Maria says, spill the tea. That's how I feel. I want to know the truth pretty much about everything. Yeah, me too. Maria says, or Spill the Tea says 100%. And I think, regardless of how you feel about Alex Jones, we need those guys out there. We need guys who are going to get in, and ultimately, that I don't have such an ego, and I'm not such a grandiose thinker as to think that, well, this show, we're going to be the one to wake everybody up. But I have this idea of, all around the country right now, there's hundreds or thousands of other shows like this, of people getting together and discussing these ideas without the interference from the mainstream media, or I don't even want to call them the mainstream media, because we're becoming the new mainstream media. We'll say the corporate press, the cathedral. They are shaping the narratives that millions of Americans see, but we're stepping out of that, and we're discussing it on our own, and we're asking questions like, hey, this doesn't make sense, and we're not just letting it fly. So there's so many of us doing that together. I really think it is part of the next American Revolution, and as far as individual freedoms coming back, and people being aware of what's going on, and not letting people like this take, I know we got a long way to go, but not letting people like this run over us, because a lot of people, it took things getting really bad before they realize this. Now, like, I hate, a lot of times it feels good to be right, but I've been telling people about a lot of these conspiracy theories, how many have come true for years. I don't feel vindicated, because it's awful. Yeah, I mean, they really are trying to do a bunch of really horrible shit to us. So it's hard to feel vindicated, but it is nice to see that a lot of people that thought this kind of stuff was crazy are actually opening their eyes to it and saying, hey, wait a minute. But let's finish up this article. Bankston went on to, after Jones's credibility, showing an InfoWars video clip last week when a host, not Jones, claimed the trial was rigged, and featured a photo of the judge in flames. And Jones said there was a jury was selected from a group of people who don't know what planet they live on. And then it said Jones said he didn't mean that part literally. So he did not literally mean that the people literally did not know what planet they were on. So let's go. I got one more thing I want to show you on this. Let me find it here. It's down at the bottom of the article, I think. Okay, so this is the one I wanted to read it here too. Okay, this one doesn't show it. The judge said that you're not be allowed to take people that you're bankrupt, because you're not bankrupt. The federal court actually found he filed for bankruptcy. It was in the news. I'm sure if you listen to the news, even if you're a liberal, because they were celebrating, they're like, oh, Alex Jones, yay! He's bankrupt. InfoWars is going under. It was on the news. It was all over the place. Probably about 3 months ago, because he filed protection to show, basically, to discharge them of some of the debts, and show what kind of debts they had, and show that they don't have any damn money to pay these people. And the court says that he doesn't. Now listen to this right here. Oh shit, I've lost it now. Sorry. All right, give me just a second. Dang it, I've lost it. But basically, the judge says, it's not true. You can't tell the jury that you're bankrupt, because that's not true. Well, he filed for bankruptcy and got a stay from the federal court. And normally when this happens, they take this case to a federal court and determine if it can proceed. Now, sometimes it kicks back, but this is like pretty. I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's a very rare thing for it to go back to stay in the state court whenever a federal bankruptcy has been filed. But anyway, we'll continue watching that story. I just thought it was kind of crazy the way they were like, "You're not bankrupt," and then later in the same article they're like, "InfoWars was filed for bankruptcy back in whenever they did it." So anyway, I hate I couldn't show you the video because the judge was really something else. But let's go on to. That's basically the idea is thought crime, right? It's his crime was questioning something, and because he has a large platform where he questioned it, and most of the people doing this were not Alex Jones. There was a lot of conspiracy channels, a lot of conspiracy blogs that were not Alex Jones that were talking about Sandy Hook. I didn't see it from Alex Jones. I saw it from other places. All the Sandy Hook conspiracies. So I think it's just that he's got a target on his back, and that's where they think they can get him. I was going to show you this video here, but since you can't hear the audio, I don't know what's up with that. But there was a man in England or in the UK who was arrested because he showed. You remember that trans pride flag that we showed? If you lined them all up, they would make a swastika. Well, he posted that on social media, and the police came to his house and arrested him and said it was because he had done something that was offensive to other people. And so thought crime is here. It's happening. Never mind that what those people had done was offensive to him. So why doesn't if I was him, I would have said, well, obviously this agenda is offensive to me, so you should go arrest them. But they didn't, and so there you have it. There's again, I would play the video, but you wouldn't be able to hear it. But that's right. They're using the police to police our minds and our speech. They've been doing it in China for a long time. They've been doing it in London for a while. It actually even happened in the United States. I was listening to an interview with Judge Joe Brown the other day, and he was talking about how there was a guy out in California, and he had some neighbors who were moving in, and they asked him. They put up rainbow flags, and they asked him if he would fly one. He said no, he didn't want to do that. So at that point, they then started taking their dogs and walking them on his yard. And he has video footage of this. They took their dogs and walked them on his yard. And he said, "Hey, what in the hell are you doing? Take that dog somewhere else." And they started calling him the N-word. After they called him the N-word, he called them the F-word, with two G's in the middle. We'll just say so YouTube doesn't flag us for that. But after they called him that first, they then called him it a bunch more times and then called the police and reported him for hate crime. That guy had to do 1129 probation, and he had a 30-day suspended sentence in jail. So he didn't actually have to serve it, and then had to pay a bunch of fines and do community service because some people came over so now evidently the F word trumps the N word, I guess. But the thought crime is real. It's all over. It's heading all over the place. Coming to a state near you. Spill the tea. I hope you're doing all right out there in California. Don't be calling nobody no nasty names. It might come after you. Let's see. We got We Are the Awakening. Yes, I agree. Spill the tea. Maria D says we are waking up. I'm wrong a lot and not afraid to admit it. I'm human. Yeah, I'm not right all the time. Nobody is. I mean, anybody that's and people try to hold it against you if you're wrong on some of this stuff too. Like, oh well, and honestly, conspiracy theorists, if you're discerning, we're a lot of times not wrong about most of these things. Great minds think alike, says Spill the Tea. Maria D says, I think you are in my head, and we all think so much alike here. I think, guys. That's what Maria D says. She says we think so much like talking about her and Spill the Tea, but I think we all do. And Spill the Tea says she loves Joe Brown. Joe Brown. Yeah, he's the man. He's running for Memphis here in Tennessee in 2023, and that ought to be interesting because Judge Joe Brown's the man, dude. If you hadn't listened to much of his stuff, he's got Judge Joe Brown TV on Twitter. Go check him out. Some of his interviews and stuff, especially a lot of the stuff I heard. I can't remember who it was he did an interview with. It was like a guy who usually interviews like hip hop people and stuff. and he did an interview with him. It was amazing, talking about the real toxic masculinity is from a lack of masculinity. It is, boys growing up without fathers and not having anyone teach them to shape that masculinity into something productive, and they use it in a very destructive way. So it's a real good talk. If you check him out, Judge Joe Brown on toxic masculinity, you'll probably enjoy that. All right, so before it gets too late, I do want to go ahead. I had a couple more stories that I'm not going to get into tonight. We'll save them for later. But it's after 11 o'clock, so I want to go over this with you. Tennessee Attorney General files lawsuit against Walgreens for role in opioid crisis. Herbert Slattery filed a lawsuit against Walgreens, the whole corporation, because apparently they, in Tennessee, here in Sullivan County and Knoxville, there were a couple stores that were doing crazy amounts of prescription drugs. And I got to look, and I read most of the lawsuit here before the show, and I was going to go over a couple things in particular with it. Let's go to Slattery claims that the company's actions between 2006 and 2020, during which Walgreens operated somewhere between 200 and 300 stores in the state, that they were in a key position and had unique superior knowledge of volume of opioids passing through the stores. During those 14 years, they dispensed more than 1.1 billion oxycodone and hydrocodone pills, while the state's population fell between 6 and 7 million people. Estimates from the Attorney General's office found that they would attribute to distributing about 175 pills for every man, woman, and child. 175 pills over 14 years. And you got to remember, there's a lot of people who, with chronic pain, I've known multiple people who have chronic issues that they will not get better from. They live in a lifetime of pain, and if you take them off their OxyContin, they are going to be it's going to be cruel and unusual punishment to do that. And when people take these drugs for a long time, it takes a lot of doses in order to keep them somewhat pain-free, and they don't even keep them pain-free. So there's a lot of people who have really bad issues who need these drugs, for one, and they made it really hard for a lot of people to get them, who need them, because a lot of doctors have a hard time or refuse to prescribe them at all. So they're saying here that Walgreens, because they are a distributor as well as a retail pharmacy of these medications, that they should have seen red flags that a lot of these things were coming from similar places. I'm going to give you some a list of these, and you tell me what you think about this, if this makes any sense to you. And I mean, ultimately, I don't think that this is Walgreens' problem. I mean, if you've got one doctor who's writing a whole bunch of drugs for things that don't make sense, I mean, you know how I feel. I think it all should be legal anyway, and I think it should be a deregulated market. But in the system that we're in, you cannot get those drugs without a prescription from a doctor. So why the hell they're going after Walgreens? Why are they not going after the doctors? I mean, I know they are going after some of the doctors, but why is this lawsuit against Walgreens? There's lots of other pharmacies in the state, and even in one set of this, it says that. What's that?
They're going after Walgreens because there's a thing called DIR fees that they charge pharmacies. That's a whole other topic. But the reason they can go after Walgreens is because they know they can't get enough money out of all the individual pharmacists. Independent pharmacists are the highest writer of pain pills because of the DIR fees, but they can't get money out of the independent pharmacies, so they're going to sue Walgreens.
Well, let me read you. I think you're onto something there for sure. Let me read you a few.
The pharmacist, she's just telling me all this stuff.
Let me read you a few of these red flags here. Identified by both Walgreens and the DEA include multiple customers receiving the same strength of controlled substances. Well, they only make them in so many strengths. I mean, they got 5, 10 milligram Percocets or whatever. You got 10, 20, 40, 80, whatever it is, milligram morphine, OxyContin. So you're going to have multiple customers receiving the same strength. 2, no individualized dosing and or multiple prescriptions for the strongest dose of an opioid available. Again, the strongest dose is 80 milligrams of OxyContin. When you've been on chronic pain management for years, you can take 3-4 OxyContins a day and it still doesn't kill your pain. 80 milligrams of OxyContin. It doesn't take long for people to build that tolerance. And then we got many customers with the same diagnosis codes written on their prescriptions. Well, how many chronic pain diseases are there? I mean, you got I mean, there's only so many things that leave you in enough pain to where you're going to need pain pills. So, of course, they're going to be the same diagnosis codes written on them. High percentage of patients paying for controlled substances in cash. Okay. Customers driving long distances to fill prescriptions. Well, now sometimes that sounds, again, I don't really care what people do, but you could see that. But at the same time, they have, like, just for example, I've had an uncle who stayed with me for certain months out of the year. His address was still was somewhere far away, but he would, he would register his car while he was here because he lived with me at the time. But then he had he had to drive to his farm or his mailbox once a month to get his prescriptions. So instead of doing that, he had them sent here. So it looked like he was driving a really long time to pick up his prescriptions, but he wasn't. Customers abusing or selling drugs in the parking lot. Well, yeah, that happens anywhere. Customers arriving in groups with each customer presenting a prescription issued by the same physician. Well, now that's another thing that I've heard of before is people who have the same issue. They try to get their appointment at the same time, especially got guys like veterans who maybe not all of them can drive. They jump in a van and they all ride together to the doctor and they get their prescription for their pain pills and they go fill them. And they all do it together. And that happens a lot. We got multiple customers receiving the same combination of prescription drug cocktails. Customers with prescriptions for opioids written by physicians with specialties not associated with pain management, such as podiatry or gynecology. You don't think anybody ever had pain in their lady parts or their foot to where they needed a pain pill? I mean, are you kidding me? It all seems like I don't really care about Walgreens one way or the other, but it just seems like a load of crap to me. What are they doing? Why are they wasting their people's time? Listen, I know that opioids have done a lot of damage to a lot of people, but if you're going to go after pain pills, you need to be going after Purdue Pharmaceuticals, who was the one sending out people and paying lots of money to tell doctors, to tell reps, to tell pharmacists that these things were not addictive in this time period. Now, we've figured it out since then, but they were the ones that and the U.S. government actually already sued him and won for that, and they had to pay a pretty large damage for that. But that's who you should be going after, is the manufacturer of this, who convinced everybody that this was not addictive and that it was just fine. Spill the Tea says, I'm glad all pain pills make me sick, so I leave them most alone. People that take pain pills are in more pain after taking them for a while. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are some people who, especially if you don't need it for chronic pain management, when you actually take that pill, and you don't have it, your body will actually produce more pain to get you to take the pill, as a reaction, as part of the addiction. So that's true. I'm not saying that pain pills are a great thing. I'm not saying Walgreens is a great company. I'm just saying this is kind of crazy to be able to be suing them because they're saying, oh, well, they should have known that they did. But here, I do have something that was to show you that is a little suspicious from them. We'll go down into the lawsuit a little bit more here. Let me find it real quick. It's several dozens of pages. We're going to talk about the store in Sullivan County here. If I can find it. This is right next to us in Carter County, where we live, where Tim and I live. Sorry about that. I had this thing pulled up, but it's a big long lawsuit in script here. So I'm going to show you this map real quick. This is two Walgreens an hour apart in Crossville and Cookville, and this is a diagram of where the people filling their prescriptions came from, and this is kind of suspicious out here in Oregon and Nevada. But how big are the counties? How big are the zip codes in unincorporated Oregon, unincorporated Nevada? See, I feel like they may be manipulating this thing to make this look like it's a larger, because you could have one guy coming from one county out here in Oregon, and then it's a giant zip code here because nobody lives in this part of Oregon. It's right up against the Rocky Mountains almost. And you got this big part of Nevada. It's so I don't know. It's kind of suspect to me. I feel like that you probably just have larger zip codes in these areas over here, but I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. But see, look how tiny the dots over here are in these highly populated areas. These are zip codes over here, and then out here in the deserts and right on the on the Idaho and Oregon border, then you've got these giant big ones. I kind of feel like that's just probably bigger zip codes. But anyway, I don't know what's up with Herbert Slattery, the Attorney General from Tennessee. I mean, I usually think he's all right, but this just doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like more one of those thought crime things. They should have known that something was.
It's more misnomer than it is thought crime. Like, they're trying to make it to where, like, for example, right now, since Roe v. Wade, all the pharmacists are being told that they don't have a choice, that they have to fill Plan B and that they have to fill birth control and stuff. But there's also this thing to where they're allowed to use their discretion. But now they're being in this weird position where the only reason that all those doctors, I'm not saying the doctor or the pharmacists weren't complicit in being stupid at Walgreens. What I'm saying is if you're going to go after the pharmacist for writing bullshit prescriptions, why don't you go after the doctor who wrote that bullshit prescription? And they're going to do everything they can to not go after the doctors, and that's what it's about.
Well, and
like a lot of those things that they're catching, a lot of those things is fishy activity. A lot of that stuff you read off is
some
the
of it
red
is,
flag for
sure.
pill mills and stuff. Almost all of it is. But if you're going to allow doctors to do that and you're going to punish the pharmacist for not having discretion, you got to go back and retcon it and go after the doctor too. You can't just go after the one individual. But since it's about money, though. They can get money out of Walgreens, but they can't get it out of the independent pharmacists. That's what they're after.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of people wanting something done about. I mean, because ultimately the opioid, the way it's gone. I mean, meth and opiates have really got into Tennessee bad. I mean, it's done the state bad, but to blame the pharmacy, I think, is just missing the whole point. What are you hoping to accomplish by that? I mean, I know the pills have to come from somewhere, but now you got fentanyl coming from China. As soon as you started making that stuff harder to get, that's when the fentanyl started pouring in. So is that what you want? But yes, that is what they want. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think they aren't going to answer it, so I'll answer
you're
for
right.
you.
I think you're right. And I had the Biden executive order, for this will be our last one for tonight, focused on abortion access for low-income women. And it says that, okay, get this, the Biden administration's task force on reproductive health care gathered for its first of all, they call it reproductive health care. Now listen, I'm begrudgingly pro-choice, I guess you could say. I hate the idea of abortion. I feel like you're killing a baby, especially after if you wait, past the first trimester, you're killing a baby, in my opinion. But I don't feel like that restriction is the way to do that, because you still have people that will do it. But I also don't feel like they should make it simple on people. I don't think they should promote it, and I don't think it's. I mean, the Democrats used to have this thing that they would say in the 90s when they were pushing for more abortion access was safe, legal, and rare. And I think that's a pretty good policy, or a pretty good goal because you don't want people going doing coat hangers in back alleys and jumping down the stairs or drinking alcohol to try to have a miscarriage, because a lot of those will fail, that brain damage and hurt the woman and hurt the baby. You don't want any of that happening. But the Biden healthcare administration, they come out and my problem is not so much with, he announced and signed a new executive order that will primarily focus on helping low-income women be able to access reproductive health care, including abortion. No, it's just abortions. That's why they're doing it. So you can travel to another state and get an abortion. He says, women's health and lives are on the line. Now listen, there's been a lot of disinformation with it. They've been trying to say, like, ectopic pregnancy requires an abortion. No, you don't go to an abortion clinic for ectopic pregnancy. Well, I don't know that they can't treat it in an abortion clinic, because they do have doctors there, but it's not an abortion to have an ectopic pregnancy. An ectopic pregnancy is when the egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tube. It's not a viable fetus at that point. It can't survive. And if you don't cut it out, it is going to be dangerous. But you don't have an abortion to do that. You have a surgical procedure. And if you do have situations where the life of the mother is at risk, and that does happen in childbirth, you can schedule emergency C-sections. You can schedule. I mean, there's ways that they do it without actually having to kill the baby. And they're also in some places pushing the date up to 9 months, where you can abort a baby up to the date of birth. And people years ago would have said that was crazy, but they want to do that. And I just, again, I just think I think the whole thing is crazy to wait that long. And even and people ask me sometimes, in an ANCAP society, how would you deal with something like abortion? And it's like, well, I think most of us agree that it's, and even Democrats agree, most reasonable people agree that we don't wait until somebody is about to give birth and then do an abortion. If you're going to do an abortion, you do it early before. I think most people agree that they want it before there's a heartbeat, or before there is at least a movement, fingers and toes and things like this. The first trimester, I think, is generally where most people draw the line. And they're still there. Why are they pushing these bills where you can get them up to the date of? I just think it's crazy. And in that ANCAP society, you would probably have, you'd still have abortion. You'd have companies that did it. That's the way that would work. But you'd also have, without law enforcement, and if a doctor killed a 9-month-old baby, somebody would probably kill him without him having the protection of law enforcement and stuff. So there definitely be an incentive not to do those. So I don't think you'd have. I don't think it'd be the crazy hellscape that people think. But again, in order to get to that society, we got to get the government out of the way. And right now, people in this country are so dependent on somebody telling them what to do all the time. We got to reverse that, and that's why I don't advocate going straight. A lot of people are like, "Oh, let's just end it all to get rid of the government or whatever." I'm all for scaling it back, but we've got so many people who are so dependent on so many different systems. It's not realistic to just get rid of that and not think you're going to have a bloodbath and violence in the streets. I mean, I think it would happen. So what we have to do is get back to being, like Tim said, where they got the word based. Like that army man, that army man, the plastic army man with no feet. He can't stand, he can't do anything because he's not based. He's got to be based in some sort, grounded in some sort of reality, grounded in some sort of morality. And if we all can't get there, then I don't know what we're going to do. But I think that's what we got to do first, is kind of get it, recognize that we've basically got Stockholm syndrome. We've been made that way over the years, and let's get out here and start forming parallel economies, parallel systems, parallel thought, Tim. And all this stuff's not going to matter. It's not, abortion happened before Roe versus Wade, but when Roe versus Wade happened, it became a industry. And they sell organs, and they sell all these body parts. They burn these babies' bodies and heat hospitals with them and stuff. It's an awful thing, man. And again, I'm not for controlling a woman's body or anything like that, but it's like Maria says here. There are many, or like Spill the Tea says, there are many ways not to get pregnant. It's just wrong, in my opinion. Have a heart, people. How about birth control instead? And Buddy Bell says it shouldn't be government something that's subsidized. Well, Buddy, it is. It's actually legal after the Hyde Amendment for the federal government to pay for it. But what they're doing here is they're paying for the travel to do it. So they're getting around that because they didn't, they weren't real thorough with that. But Chuck Schumer says in his article that voters are revolting against the extreme MAGA Republican policies, says Chuck Schumer, but they actually not. The polling is showing that there has been very little shift. Right after they repealed Roe versus Wade, there was like a 1.5% shift among women to Democrats. But most people know where they stand on this. And again, if you understand the issue, when they repealed Roe versus Wade, that doesn't mean abortion is illegal. It means your state has the right to do that. And they didn't. And that's not the Supreme Court saying that, we're going to choose one way or the other on this. They said the federal government does not have the authority to make any decision on this. It is up to the states. So now you see Biden writing this executive order. He is trying to subvert the will of the people in the states they live in. So I mean, really, I don't have any problem if like we talked about like Tesla, I think, and Google, they're going to pay you to go to another state to get an abortion. Well, if that's what they do, you know, whatever. If it's legal in that state, whatever. But to have the federal government doing it, I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's the money that they take from us, that they've been taking from me since I've been started working and paying into federal tax system 27 years ago, and they're using it to send some woman who I don't know, who I sure as hell did knock up, to go to another state and get an abortion. So it's another thing in a crazy long line of crazy, and it is the federal government actively subverting the will of the states through its puppet Joe Biden, and we need to get into the deep state, the administrative state, the senior executive services established in 1978 under the Carter government. We're going to have to get into that very soon, because that's going to be very key into some of the events, some of the things we're going to be discussing coming up. So we'll do that in the near future. I'm hoping we can do Star Wars this weekend. Really looking forward to that. Tim, what do you think about that? It's a trap!
I had no thoughts. I hope Jonathan's well and hasn't been sick, and that's why he's not been able to do the Star Wars talk. But
all
I'll be
right,
there
awesome.
Sunday.
Well, you be safe driving back from whatever hell you're in now, and
I'm thinking of
well, it could be
Pennsylvania.
worse. Maria D says late. She's falling asleep. Good night. We're getting off, Maria. Later. Hey, we'll see you. It is a trap. Spill the tea. Hey, watch, like, share. Hey, give us a like on the video before you go. Help us out. It really helps other people find it. Share it with somebody you think might like it. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Bye, Tim. Bye, Ashley.